there, my name is Kelly Dale and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path, which is located in Forest City, North Carolina. For today's video, I'm going to attempt to show you how to make a really pretty wire pendant that you can make into a beautiful necklace. So to get started, we're going to be using some 16 gauge wire. Now I'm going to be using the Beadsmith brand 16 gauge wire. It's not a shiny silver, but it is a silver. You can get the sterling silver, sterling field, whatever you want to get, but I like to use this because it's kind of inexpensive to practice with. And like I said, I'm not a wire working person, so practice makes perfect for me. So I like to use the most inexpensive thing I can to kind of start out with when I'm doing my wire work. But you'll need some 16 gauge wire. You're going to need a ruler. I'm going to be using a chasing hammer. It has a flat side and it has a ball side. We're going to be using the flat side today. I'm going to be using a bench block, which is just a heavy metal block. And I like to use a rubber block under the bench block, so that way it kind of stops some of the sound and some of the actual impact against the table or whatever work surface that you're working on. You're going to need a Sharpie. You need a good pair of round nose pliers, cutters, and then you're going to need some chain and assorted beads. But I'll tell you about that a little later. So let's go ahead and get started actually making the heart. To get started, the first thing I'm going to do is use my 16 gauge wire, and I'm going to measure out a 5-inch piece of wire and trim. Now you want to take your fingers and try and straighten the wire out as much as possible, or if you have a pair of nylon jaw pliers you can do that also, but just as long as it's not curved or kinked real bad, you'll be okay. Now I'm going to take a little Sharpie marker and I'm going to mark the very center of my wire at 2.5 inches. So now I have just my little plain black dot on there. Now I'm going to use my round nose pliers, and if you look at your round nose pliers, they start out very skinny and then they get bigger as you go backwards. And all pliers are different in the thickness that they have here. You can kind of see the thickness here of mine compared to my wire. You can kind of see the thickness there. The tip of this is about the same thickness as my 16 gauge, but as you go back, it gets bigger. So, I'm going to use the fattest part of my pliers, and there's my little black mark. So I'm going to grab right there all the way to the end here, and I'm going to take both wires and I'm going to push them upward, and I'm going to cross them there at the bottom so that I have a V shape similar to this one. Now, this bottom loop here is going to be the bottom of my heart. I'm going to do one side at a time. I'm going to come to this side, and I'm going to come about midways back on my pliers. So instead of going all the way back, I'm only going about halfway back. And I'm going to take and I'm going to roll the pliers towards the center of my V shape. So 1, and I just want to kind of keep rolling this until I've got about 2 rolls. So 1, 2. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. I'm going to grab about midways. And I'm going to take and I'm just going to start rolling the wire towards the center until I have about 2 loops. You want the loops to be as identical to each other as you can get them. So this is what I have thus far. I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to grab right inside of that loop I just made. And you see the pliers here, they're not on the outside of the wire, they're on the inside of the heart. And I'm just going to hold the center, and I'm going to tilt those pliers a little bit to where they make a crook there for my heart. Then I'm going to put the pliers back in the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, so that now that gives me a crook on that side. This one is pretty even. I'm going to bend it in just a little bit, and that looks pretty good. If you want it to be closer together, you can push them closer together. If you want it to be further apart, just pull them a little further apart, just like this. The thing about it is, and I'll show you, I've made lots of these little hearts, and not every heart is exactly the same. They're all different, which is completely fine. I just kind of play with my hearts and try and get some that I'm happy with. So, I mean, as you can see, each little heart, although they look similar, they're different depending on the shape that you're going for, or the look that you're going for. This one here is closer together compared to this one. This one has a fatter bottom. So, I mean, it just depends. You can play and enjoy these and just have fun with them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my bench block now. And I'm going to put my heart right on top of that bench block. Now remember, I told you with the hammer, you've got a flat side and you have a round side. We're going to be using the flat side because we want to actually flatten the wire. So I'm going to do the bottom first, and when you hammer, be careful not to hammer this joint too much or you're going to cut the wire. So see how the wire there is already starting to flatten out a little bit? That's exactly what you want. Once you get that done, then just kind of start taking it. And you can see now the wire has more of a flat shape rather than a round shape like is down here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and continue to hammer it until I have a more flattened out shape. And then if you choose to, you can also hammer some on the back. Like I said, just be careful not to hammer this joint too much or you'll break the wire. So I have my heart hammered the way I want to with these flat hammer. Now, I wanted to show you, if you use the ball peen side of the hammer, it gives you a little bit of texture. So as you can see the difference there, it doesn't really flatten your wire, it just gives it texture. The reason we want to flatten out the wire is so that it'll make it stronger, so that way it won't come apart or pull apart as easy as someone wears it. So that's how you make the actual centerpiece, and it's very, very easy. Now, I'll show you the very first sample I ever made is this one here. And basically what I did was I took 5 crystals, put them on head pins, made a plain loop, and attached them to the bottom. Then here at the top, I added a few beads and just used chain to finish it out. I also did another sample just like that one, just in different colors. I used fuchsia and citrine, added to the bottom, added to the top here, and then I added a few crystals along the actual chain part of it. So there's lots of fun things that you can do with it, but I mainly, most of you know how to make plain loops here for the bottom, but I mainly want to show you how I did this here with a 3-inch head pin. Alright, so I've started adding my beads here on the bottom. And if you don't want the beads to hang too far down, I want to show you just real quick. Because see, mine are hanging very close to the heart. So how I did that is I'm using a thinner gauge head pin, and I'm actually going to take the pin and bend it straight out at a 90-degree angle from the bead. I'm not going to leave any space there above the bead. And then I'll take my round nose, or my cutters, and I'm going to cut and not even leave 1/4 of an inch. And then I'll use my round nose pliers to grab a hold and turn the wire around so that I have my loop. Now, once I have my loop, I'm going to use my flat nose pliers, grab a hold of the little loop, bend it straight up, and then attach it to my heart. And then grab a hold and close the loop just like I opened it. So that now I have my 5 beads along the bottom of the heart. Now, to add the pieces here, what I've done is I've threaded on a 4mm violet, a daisy spacer, a 6mm amethyst, a daisy spacer, and a 4mm violet. Now I'm using a 3-inch head pin or eye pin. On one end it already has the loop. So for the other end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a hold right above the last 4mm. I'm going to turn that wire straight out to a 90-degree angle. Then I want a pretty good size loop. So I'm going to come out and I want to come back further on my pliers as so. And I'm going to turn the wire back towards the start like this. I'm going to put the pliers back in there and I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to bend it back like I'm going to actually start wrapping the loop. But I'm not going to start the wrap yet. I'm going to take what I've got and I'm going to thread it right through the open loop there of my heart. I'm going to grab a hold of the loop with my round nose pliers, and then I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to wrap till I meet the bead. And I'm going to take my cutters, trim that wire so that now it's actually attached here to the loop. And I'm going to take a piece of chain, and I've already attached a lobster claw with a split ring to one end of the chain. And so I'm just going to take that one little loop that I have here on the eye pin. I'm going to lift it up to open it. I'm going to attach my last link of chain here to the loop. And then I'm going to take and close the loop just like I opened it. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side. Here are my 3 completed color samples. This is my violet and amethyst. This is my cyan and rose. And then this is my fuchsia and citrine color sample. All 3 color sample kits will be available on our Etsy store, as well as the written pattern on how to make the wire wrapped pendant. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make this wire heart. I tried to explain it as simple as I could so that it would be easy to understand. But if your first heart doesn't turn out perfectly, no worries, just try again. Be sure and come back next week when I'll be done with my Valentine's Day heart-inspired theme. And I'm moving on to twin beads. And I'm going to show you how to make a twin bead ring. So come back and learn another great project. And we'll see you again next week. Bye!